Okay, kids, it's time for another episode of Fueled by Weird, the only podcast to go to the negative zone and make it out in one piece. I'm Chris Daly, and tonight I have the pleasure of chatting with Garrett Gunn. Garrett, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. I've actually wanted to talk to you for a long time because you're a really cool guy. Everyone has nothing but
Oh,
good things to say about you. So I'm like, I need to talk to this guy. We need to be
I
friends.
I try to not be that much of a dick. It's
That's good. That's
yeah, there's
good.
enough of those in comics, man.
Right?
I just try to be a decent dude.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna kick things off. Since you and I don't know each other very well, let's do an icebreaker.
I
Let's do
love it.
Desert Island movie.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Okay. Only movie we can watch ever?
let's say one movie, or even let's do like three movies
Oh,
you can
fuck.
bring with you. Those are the only three movies you could watch while you're on the island.
Army of Darkness,
Ooh, nice.
Tremors, and Return of the King, Lord of the Rings.
Ooh, nice.
Like I feel like I need
Um,
to feel good, right? You got I got like a bad movie. I've got like a cult classic, and I've got like a feel good. You only ever need the end, right? Like you
right.
bow to no one. Like that would cheer me up, as I'm dying on it.
That's awesome. I think for me, I would pick Scott Pilgrim, the incredible movie.
Fuck, that's such a
It's
that's a
so
great
good.
one. The best comic adaptation of all
I
time, in my
agree.
opinion. But
Pacific Rim, the
yeah.
first one, incredible movie.
Ooh, that's
And
awesome.
then
You're a big monsters
love
fighting
it,
kaiju
dude.
fan? Or monsters fighting kaiju? Jesus
Robots.
Christ.
Yeah.
Robots fighting
Dude,
monsters.
big
Holy
robot guy.
moly.
That's me. Mechs, robots. That's me. Yeah, big
Really?
time.
I love that. I'm getting into it, bro. I, not to derail
No,
you,
you're
but
good.
a friend of mine just told me at work, he was like, I believe in my heart. It was so funny. I believe in my heart we're on the precipice of a mech revolution. I was like,
Yeah, for
yeah, I mean,
real.
I'm here for it, bro.
Why
Like,
not?
sure. Like, he was so into it, though.
Yeah, bring it on. I'll eat it all up. It's all good.
Yeah. And number three,
Number three, I would say The Prestige with Edward Norton, or not
that's a
Edward Norton,
great Hugh
Hugh
Jackman.
Jackman,
And
and Christian
yeah,
Bale.
that's Christian Bale.
Yeah,
That is a great
there
fucking
was
movie.
there was an Edward Norton magician movie, but it was nowhere near as good
Yeah,
as
that
The Prestige.
no. Well, as most things with Edward Norton.
Plus, I mean,
Yeah, that's a great
he's a
movie.
bad guy in most of them, so it's
Well,
really
he's a bad guy
hard.
in real life.
That's true. That's true.
I feel like he mirrors his real life persona in those movies
Right?
most times. Yeah.
Totally. All right.
Yeah. Wow,
So,
those are great choices.
thank you.
Making me rethink some of them.
Well, see, here's the thing:
Yeah.
is like a week from now they're going to change anyway. So,
Yeah. It's based on
so
what I'm watching at the time.
yeah, totally.
I've been really into bad movies lately.
That's okay.
Like really.
My wife is a huge fan of like those made for TV sci-fi D-list really shitty
Oh,
horror
those are
movies.
great.
She's super into
I
those.
just for the second time watched Cocaine Bear. And
I still haven't watched that
I
yet, but
love
I
that
heard
movie
it's
so
awesome.
much.
Yes,
It
and
might be one of the best bad movies ever made.
Velocipaster is one that's on my list too.
That's a great one too. That's
I want
right
to see
there.
that one.
That's right there. And then they
That's
got the new
rad.
Sharknado. People are making Zombie Tsunami. Is their
Oh
next
man.
thing? It's amazing. I love it so
That's
much.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's rad.
Now I feel like I know a little bit more about you.
A little bit.
I mean,
Me
I know
too.
that you are a connoisseur of good comic adaptation movies.
And the bald beard club who got to stick together.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, one of my biggest fears is always like I always tell my wife, I'm like, do I look like a guy that's trying to hold on to his youth?
I
Uh
I would think that if I didn't shave my head, but once I started going bald, I'm just like, we're done.
I thought I was like, I don't know, man. My hair is not very thick.
Yeah.
I was like, I think rather than have like thin, greasy hair, I'd
Yeah.
rather just polish this baby up.
Mine used to be really thick, but I saw myself once in a video where I had a bald spot on the crown of my head, and I was like, yeah, I'm done. It's
Yeah,
gonna go
that'll wreck your day, bro.
all
That'll
the
wreck
way.
your day.
All
Yeah.
the way.
Damn.
All right. So Fueled by Weird is kind of a new concept I have where basically everyone has that thing that makes them weird. And
Yep.
it doesn't necessarily have to be a nerdy thing. It really
Yep.
could be anything.
Yeah.
So for you, sir, what what kind of things feel you're weird? What kind of things are you into?
Man, I'm really into people taking creative chances.
Yeah.
I'm really into like people that are just totally confident in the idea that they don't care at all what people think about like the thing they're making
Yeah.
because they care about it.
Nice.
And that seeing people do that kind of stuff, like it has been a long time since I like picked up like a Marvel or DC book and was like, man, like this is really something.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
when DC made Jurassic League, I was like, yes. like sure,
Yeah.
superhero fucking dinosaurs, absolutely.
Yeah.
When they did the Looney Tunes crossovers, Batman and
Mhm.
Elmer Fudd,
Yeah.
some of the best DC comics ever. Batman and Elmer Fudd is one of the best comics I've probably ever read.
That's awesome.
So I love, and I fucking hate DC. So like, I just am not a DC fan at all. But like when they take chances like that, when people take chances like that, I love it. In indie comics, like the people who are gonna like getting out there and are like, I'm gonna make this comic that's so niche. Like there's 10 people that want this comic, and I don't even care.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
And those 10 people are gonna be dope.
I admit I haven't read a Marvel DC for a minute, but I usually stick with like the other guys. Or actually lately I've really been super into indie comics. So I
Yeah.
get you. Just some of the like the weirdest stuff. I have this one
Yeah.
friend, Chad Perkins.
Yeah.
He has some of the
I know
most
Chad.
he has some of the most crazy ideas, but man, they turn out to be some of the coolest stories.
Yeah.
So it's ones like that are just amazing.
Yeah. I don't, it's so stagnant. Comics is so
Yeah.
like mainstream comics is so stagnant. And like, I mean, there was a brief stint there where we were like, oh, Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman and those people, like, they're going to come in, they're going to shake these things up. And like, they just can't beat the fucking system, man. Like,
Yeah.
Marvel's like, nope.
We're going to stick to what works.
Yeah. I mean, I also love, I think like it fuels me to see other people taking like chances on like how not even the content, but how they produce a comic.
Yeah.
Daniel Warren Johnson.
Yeah.
So Daniel Warren Johnson sells. Have you ever read his Green Leader?
I've not.
So he sells these little like digest sized little ash cans called Green Leader, and it's like fan fiction Star Wars stuff.
That's awesome.
It's awesome and weird. And like you go to his table and they're like $5, and like he will only sell them sometimes. And like if he thinks you'll appreciate it, like
wow.
And like he like doesn't want people to have them unless he really feels like they're into it. But just like, people who are releasing stuff in innovative new ways and trying to like, create a better experience for the reader. I believe in the deepest parts of my soul that we're in like a comics revolution right now.
For sure.
Where like the market, like the customer is changing, and like people don't want to read a comic, they want an experience. And I think that that's why crowdfunded comics do so well and continue to do so well for so long, because like a person coming to a Kickstarter and reading it, like reading the campaign and buying a thing and it's showing up in the mail and all that stuff, like that $10 that they, even if they're just buying like the $10 tier or whatever, like that experience, that tie directly to a creator has a lot of impact.
Yeah, for sure.
Versus like going into a stale comic shop.
Yeah.
Where like the guy's like a dick and like has owned the shop for 60 years and is like, hey, fuck off, kid, like buy something or whatever. Like,
right.
That's what people want. And like in this age, like you have the ability to reach out. It's so weird to me because like this is it seems like a humble brag, but like people often will tell me, like in messages, people will reach out to me and be like, hey, I want to have a book signed, or I want to have a book graded or whatever, or I want to, do you have original art for sale or whatever? And I message everybody back like pretty quickly. Because I treat comics like a job.
Sure.
And so like when you come in for the day, you respond to your emails and all that. And people will be like, I can't believe you took the time to like have this conversation with me. And I'm like, what? Like, how is that a thing? Like, of course I am. Like, you're the reason I get to do this. Like, by creating, like, if I can make you a fan, that means I've got one more person that'll help me keep this job.
Yeah.
So I don't understand the mentality of so many creators that are like, I'm an artist, I make things, like, I, go to your local comic shop. Like, dude, connect with your people, man.
Yeah. I mean, I'll admit I've done that before, and it's mostly just because I just have the mindset of, I know you're super busy talking to tons of other people. So it's like, just the fact that you take the time to respond to me is just, it's incredible. And it kind of just makes your whole day. I'm speaking as a fan perspective.
Yeah.
Just because it's just neat that, with all the irons in the fire that you have and all the things you're doing, it's just kind of cool that, like, hey, this guy took some time to talk to me. And I think that's awesome that you do that.
I had an awful experience as a kid with a very, very famous comic creator, and it like ruined that person for me. And when I started making comics, I was like, I'll never be that person. Like, I'll never do that. And so, like, I don't care if you spent money with me. I don't care if you shared a thing. I don't even care if you just like sent me a message to be like, hey, I bought this book at a comic shop and it sucked. Yeah. Like, thanks, man. Like, I really appreciate you taking a chance on my book. Like, I'm sorry you didn't dig it.
Yeah.
Like, and I've turned people around, like people that were like messaging me to complain about a thing. Yeah. And like, I've turned them on to other stuff that they really liked.
That's cool.
Like, and you wouldn't do that. Like, if you don't take the time, like that person would just be like, yep, never buying a Garrett Gunn book again. Fuck this.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, and some of those people, like, you don't know who those people are. You don't know, like I've sold books to people casually at cons that like ended up being like studio executives that then messaged me and are like, hey, I work for Sony, like, would love to see anything else you got. Like, you never know who those people are.
Yeah, for sure.
So like, just take the time to like make someone's, like, try to make some sort of a connection with
it really, speaking again from a fan's perspective, it makes a huge difference. Like, if you if like I get one of your books, which we'll talk about because I'm actually a fan of a couple of your titles, and that's only because only because I haven't read them all yet. But just the fact that
some of them are bad.
Just the fact that, if I get this book and I really like, it connects with me, and I say, hey, your work really connected with me, and the fact that you take the time to respond back, it's incredible. So more people need to be like that, because I think things would be a lot more positive, I think.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. I do a Whatnot show every Saturday, and like my sign off thing is like, hey, like, thanks for being here. Like, you guys are the reason I get to keep my dream job. Like, go forth, spread positivity in the world, lift somebody up, do something to make a good impact on this world. Like, that's it. Like, that's what you got to do, especially when you're like, have the weight of like, I mean, I don't want to say influential because I'm not an influential person, but like, the things you say when people listen to you have a lot of weight.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't be a dick about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then going back to Danny Warren Johnson, Murder Falcon was incredible. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, the ending totally floored me. I'm not gonna say because I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't read it. But it's incredible. And I'm mad because I'm a huge pro wrestling fan, and I still haven't read Do a Powerbomb yet, but I heard it's incredible.
I have also not read that, but I heard really good things. It just got nominated for an Eisner.
Yeah, man.
Or something. Maybe it wasn't an Eisner, but it was yeah. It's crazy. I mean, that dude is just, I mean, that guy could shit on paper and I'd be like, it's a masterpiece, man.
Exactly.
I really loved it. The way you put that poop on there, it just killed it.
So skilled. All right.
Yeah.
So speaking about comics, what inspired you to get into comics in the first place?
Mental illness. I mean, that's a joke, but also kind of true. Sure. I made my first book when I was deployed. And I at the time I didn't know I was making a comic. I knew that I grew up reading comics. I collected them casually through adulthood because I didn't often have spare money to spend on stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I had some shit go south while I was deployed, and they sent me to a behavioral health person on base.
Mhm.
And they were like, this person was like, oh, I really want you to kind of like, they gave me this like journal, and they were like, I want you to like write down what, like write down your emotions, and write down like when you notice yourself having, an episode or having like a reaction to something. I want you to take the time and like write. I'm like, could you imagine like what every fucking sergeant walking by, if I'm like, excuse me, sergeant, I'm having an emotion, I need to write down what I'm feeling. You get fucking roasted. So I was like, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
And I was like, but I mean, I'll write something. And I tried to like, I was like, I'm going to write a story, and I'll see if I can write a story that kind of is fueled by the emotions I'm feeling.
Sure.
And I wrote this book, and then I came back from deployment, showed my wife and stuff. And she was like, oh, you should make it. And I was like, what? No. Who the fuck who wants this? She was like, well, nobody, but like if you make it, you'll have it. Like
Yeah.
you'll have your own comic.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that seems dumb, but all right. And like I spent like most of our savings making this book, and I just like had it, and I was posting about it in a group one time, and this person who owned like a tiny small press publisher was like, I would publish this book. And I was like, what? All right. So they did. And then they did it. And then they said, when does number 2 come out? Or when we have number 2 done? And I was like, what? Number 2? I gave you the book.
It's done.
What do you mean? Yeah. And so I was like, well, fuck, I hadn't even thought that far.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'll do number 2. And then I did number 3. And then I did number 4. And then the guy was like, hey, this does pretty well for us when we go to these small cons and stuff. And I mean, it does well. It probably sold 10 copies,
Sure.
at a show. So he's like, do you have anything else you're writing? And I was like, what? I mean, I've got ideas, but I've never done anything else. And so I started working on a second thing, and it just kind of like snowballed. And I started to like kind of think I was maybe getting somewhere.
Yeah.
And then I made a book who was presented to me as a professional Marvel artist. I came to find out later that was not entirely true. They had worked on a couple things for Marvel, which now, in my experience of doing this 10 years, I know that means literally nothing.
Sure.
But that person ended up taking like $7,000 from me.
Oh, wow.
And it killed the project. I had no money to make it. It had been Kickstarted. So I didn't like the backers' money was all gone. I was like, I don't have $7,000 to like remake this.
Yeah.
And I ended up figuring it out. I got an artist to come on, Nick Torres, who like helped me do it, and like helped me, basically redo the book for, and pay him as much as I could as I went. And he really got me out of a jam. But it like killed my drive. It killed my like aspirations.
Well, I'm sure.
Because I was like, man, like these professionals, these people who like I should be looking up to, like just stole everything I had.
Wow.
Like for nothing, like a person who pretended to be my friend for like a year while we made this book, just took that money from me. And I was just deflated.
That's awesome.
And my wife, we always like call it like the Joan Lee moment. Like my wife was like, I had been working on this funny story on the side, and she was like, well, you really into this book. Like if you're going to quit, I was like, I don't think I want to make comics anymore. Like this is like really like has broken my heart. And like, she was like, well, if you're going to quit, just make this thing, because like you put too much into this. You're way too excited about this. Like make this one thing and then quit. And I was like, okay. And I made that thing, and it was called The Derogatory Tales of Franklin and Ghost. And that was the turning point in my entire time doing comics. That book took off on Kickstarter and in normal sales. It went on to be, now I think we've done like 4 or 5 volumes of it. It was signed for an animated TV show. Billy Bob Thornton's in it, Sean Schemmel, Veronica Taylor, Chris Sabat. Like Like that's the thing that like I finally decided. I was like, I'm gonna stop trying to make a comic that I think people want to read. And I'm gonna make the comic that I want to read. Like I'm gonna make the comic that I find fun, and I don't care if anybody else buys it. And it was so freeing. Like it was so liberating to not give a fuck about any of it.
Wow.
And what I found is that when I stopped caring, like I started to have a lot more fun.
Yeah.
And the people who were reading the stuff I was making started to have a lot more fun. And at that time it was a very small group of people.
Sure.
So I knew most of them. And that was it. And after that, I started being like, okay, well, when you realize that every story ever has already been told, it's less about what's the next great masterpiece that I can tell. Like, what's the next, story I can tell? Like, they've all been told. Think about how you can take a trope or a cliche or take something that's old and put a new spin on it. And so like, when we did like Good Boy, like, which is my best-selling book of all time, Source Point's best-selling book of all time, like that was a thing that just started as like, I love John Wick. Christy loves John Wick. We're going to make a funny joke book. Hey, it'll be hilarious. Like, it's the dog is going to get the revenge, not the human.
Right.
And like so many people come to us and are like, this is the coolest comic I've ever read. I love this. Like, how did you come up with this? I'm like, by not giving a fuck if you wanted to buy it.
That's awesome.
Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, stop trying so hard. Like it's just crazy. People kill themselves over like, it's got to be literature. No, it doesn't.
No, not really.
No, it doesn't. Like, books like Murder Falcon exist because Daniel Warren Johnson's like, this would be fucking metal if I made this fucking story. Like, that's where the best stuff comes from. It's like when you let your hands off the reins a little bit.
Right.
So that's why I say the things that fuel me are people like that, people that don't care.
That's
the
awesome.
People who are making a thing that they find fun. Because that's all I want. Like, all I ever want in comics is to make, I tell people my motto is I want to make cool shit with my friends. That's it. People are like, why? You work with a lot of the same artists a lot of the time. You work with a lot of the same, whoever. Yeah, because when I find people I like and that are dependable and affordable and talented and communicate and give a shit like about what we're doing, like, I don't let those people go. So I make 4 or 5 books with them,
right?
Until they eventually realize they're too good for me and like go on to do, whatever. That's what it's about.
Yeah, those ideas are fun. Like, and I haven't talked about this idea much, but I was reading this book by Felicia Day where she was talking about, trying to inspire your creativity. And she talked about a dinosaur in a tuxedo. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. But then I start thinking, like, is that ridiculous? Like, it's almost like if you kind of like with your idea with Good Boy, if you took like James Bond, but switch it with a dinosaur and then you call him 00 Dinosaur. And I thought that was right. I thought that was kind of incredible. So I'm like, that's definitely an idea and I'm working on.
00 Dino is amazing.
Right. And then I had another character that's basically a hippopotamus who's dresses like the gunslinger from Dark Tower, except he doesn't have a gun. He has a giant zipper that he can like slap on and like unzip spaces in time. So he can unzip portals in the multiverse.
That's pretty who's that big hippo like detective? I forget what that comic is.
I think it's Elephant Men has one kind of like that.
Maybe that's it. It's just like exists in my brain for some reason when you said that. Like a hippo, like a mafia hippo. I don't know what that's from. That's gonna bother me.
I just had this cool idea of like, because there was a cartoon where a girl would use scissors and open up holes in the multiverse.
I think I think that's great.
Right. And I thought that was
the forces of evil.
Yes, 100%. But I was like, what can I do with that idea that make it my own? So I'm like, instead of scissors, use a zipper. So he just has this.
I mean, I think that's great.
He has this giant zipper in the holster and he just
we're doing we're doing a book right now called ECPD.
That's awesome.
Right. So it's Oz, it's Emerald City Police Department.
That's incredible.
And it's basically like after the Wicked Witch of the East was killed, it created a power vacuum in Oz. And so all of the other, you know, wicked witches and all the other like, you know, sort of like bad guys from Oz started to like clamor for power. And so the Cowardly Lion, after he found his courage, established like a police force in Oz to try to like in Emerald City to try to like keep it safe for everybody. And
that's incredible.
And he recruits Dorothy to come back and be a detective for him. And
that's
so
fantastic.
Her partner's a reformed flying monkey, and like the Tin Man is like a gun runner, like in Drug Runner. And the whole story is how the Yellow Brick Road is an underground like heroin trafficking route from Munchkinland to Emerald City.
Oh wow.
And so like they're investigating like the Yellow Brick Road.
That's awesome.
It's insane. But that's the kind of thing I'm like, okay, we've seen Oz stuff done a bunch.
Yeah.
Like, what's a funny thing that we haven't seen?
The underground.
Sure. Why wouldn't we make let's make Dorothy a noir detective.
Yeah.
Let's make Sin City, but in Emerald City.
That would be, that's incredible. And I can't wait.
Yeah. It's going to be great.
So mentioning some of your comics, big fan. And my favorites are Warcorns. I love Warcorns. I just reread it at least it was the first volume recently. It was incredible.
Yeah.
And now knowing that you used to be deployed, it makes so much more sense. I was like, how did you get all this terminology correct? And that makes sense.
Dude, that book started as a joke to make fun of all my military buddies.
So they were all based on people you know?
Those are all, so all of the characters, the main characters for sure, and a lot of the secondary characters are all based on real people that I served with.
That's awesome.
And some of them know who they are and some of them don't. And I often find it really entertaining to like, that some of them will be like, oh yeah, I'm totally this guy. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're that one. Like,
that's awesome.
You know, so that started we made a one shot in like 2017 of that, and it was like just supposed to be a throwaway thing because Franklin and Ghost was doing well at the time, and I said, oh, I'll make it like a Franklin and Ghost thing. Like these combat unicorns get hired to kill Franklin and Ghost, and Franklin and Ghost accidentally kill them without even like knowing it.
Yeah.
Like that's, you know, they're built up to be these big bad motherfuckers, and then they show up and Franklin and Ghost don't even know they're there and accidentally just kill them. Like
I actually read that one too, and I thought that was kind of funny how it just was completely by accident.
Well, and it was just this joke, and we were gonna do one of them, and it was just gonna be a one shot. And we did a Kickstarter for it. It like did a crazy amount of like $17,000 or something like that.
Wow.
And I was like, this is amazing. Well, that was fun. And then I started getting Kickstarter messages from people that were like, when's the next one? And I was like, well, there isn't one. Like, what do you mean? It says one shot like in it. And they're like, yeah, no, but like, when's the next one? And I'm like, but they all died at the end. Like I killed all of them. And they're like, yeah, but it's comics. And I was like, yeah, you're right.
That's true.
True. So then I was like, okay, well, we're going to do a prequel that is like, we'll just ignore the fact that they all died, and we'll do a prequel. And it like, what's funny is the last 3 days, it's so funny you brought that up first. Like the last 3 days I've been locked in my basement writing a screenplay for Warcorns.
Oh wow.
Because we got a bid from a studio. They were like, oh, we want to do a feature film, but we want an anime feature, but we want to see a screenplay. Like, do you guys have one? And so my editor-in-chief was like, hey, how are you with writing screenplays? I was like, I mean, I've never done one, but sure. I mean, give me 3 days in my basement and I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So that's all I've been working on. And it's been so fun to like, I was talking to a friend earlier today and I was like, man, I haven't worked with them in so long, like those characters. Like, I mean, it's been like 2.5 years since I made a Warcorns comic. Like, and so it was very, I mean, terrifying, but like fun to get like
the birthday one, right?
Yeah, birthday bash.
Yeah.
And it was terrifying, but like really fun to like get thrust back into this. And like at first it was like really intimidating. I was like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And then like literally that was I mean I did Wednesday, Thursday, and then just this morning I got like it just popped and I was like, oh my God, I know exactly what I'm gonna do. And it was just like
Nice.
just like going. But it's so fun to like revisit stuff like that I haven't done in a long time. Yeah, it was just great. I mean, I love Warcorns. It's so much fun. And there's a lot of, we tried with that book to make it, you know, like anyone could read it and enjoy it. But like if you're a former service member or your family or, you know, friends of service members, like there's jokes you're going to get that other people won't. Like in the very beginning of the one shot, there's a Coast Guard character in the background.
Yeah.
And he's wearing a cardboard horn with a string.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because the Coast Guard's not a real branch of the military.
Yeah.
He wants to be a Warcorn, but he's not. Because we give the Coast Guard shit all the time because they're Department of Homeland Security. So that it's like little things like that, like, oh yeah, like chill out, Coastie.
I was supposed
like,
to be in Pegasus Division.
Yeah. I want to be in Pegasus Corps. I've got pretty much a hoof in, you know. Yeah, I love that book so much. I've literally working on it the last 3 days is like really like made me fall back in love with some of those big colorful idiots.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I usually tend to gravitate toward the quote unquote dumb characters. So I really had a soft spot for Gunny. Yeah.
I love Gunny so much. Yeah. He's so great. He's kind of like the hero of this screenplay I'm writing. And it's like,
oh good. That's awesome.
He always is like the one, you know. Have you seen Guardians yet?
I haven't seen the new one.
Oh man. There's some shit in there that you kind of like for the first time you kind of realize that Drax isn't really as dumb as people think he is.
Yeah.
You know, and there's like some kind of like heart-wrenching shit of like this idea that he's the big dumb muscle.
Yeah.
You know, and that it kind of like hurts him to be viewed that way. And like Gunny's the same way. Like Gunny's pretty smart. I mean, he talks like an idiot.
Yeah.
But he's not dumb. And there's some fun shit in this new thing to, you know, being like pointing that out. Like, yeah, I get it. I'm the big brute, but like I got, you know, I know some shit too.
Yeah, for sure.
And I love big doughy idiots. That's like one of my favorite.
Me too.
Like female badass like villains, like lead female, like just badass chicks.
Yeah,
is like one of my favorite things to write. And then like big doughy idiots is like right after it.
Yep, I love those characters. They're my favorite.
Yeah.
I also wanted to talk about Franklin and Ghost too.
Yep.
I just got to volume 3. I didn't know there was any past that, so now I got to go catch up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so good. And
3
I love how you tie them together.
Hard.
3, I think that's
Live
that
Free
one.
or Fox Hard.
It's the one that ends where Franklin blows up everybody.
Yeah, the Black Hole Protocol.
Yeah.
I love that. I love it.
It's good.
Volume 4 is Still Don't Give a Fox. And that one's pretty rad. It introduces like some new characters and like some crazy stuff. Franklin Ghost is fun, dude. Like that, like I said earlier, you know, like that series will always have a really special place in my heart because it was like the thing that broke the chains off. You know? And those, I mean, we did number 4, I think, like 2019 or something like that, 2020. Like it was like right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And like I've been kind of like nervous to go back to them. Because like, you know, we signed the show and like all this stuff. And I'm like, man, this is in a good spot. Let's not mess it up. let's leave that be for a while. Let the TV show go, and then I'll come back and spoil it for everybody.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So, and then that leads me into Good Boy. I just read it. Yep. I read volume 1, 2, and 3.
Oh man,
incredible! I've been binging your stuff.
Well, thank you.
I wanted to do my homework before we talked.
Yeah,
they're very good. They're incredible. And we've kind of already covered it a little bit. the idea is basically John Wick but switched.
Yeah. So we always tell people at cons, like, it's reverse John Wick. The human dies and the dog hunts down, those people looking for revenge.
Yeah. And so we've kind of already talked a little bit about that. So in addition to the book, I hear you've got some other stuff coming, and I think that's what we're really here to talk about today. All the big stuff that you have coming for Good Boy. Let's talk about it.
We SourcePoint is going through like a shift right now where like we, when SourcePoint started, we just hit our 10-year anniversary, and like when SourcePoint started, it was like the punk rock hustle kids, like, we're gonna make horror comics and we're gonna do 70 cons a year, and we're gonna like, just go to every show and hand sell every book.
Be the comic workhorses.
And we, as we grew and became more of a traditional publisher and did more creator-owned stuff and more, all these things, like, we got kind of lost. I think we got pulled so far away from like those kids, like the hustle kids, that like we lost a little bit of ourselves. And like I think something that like the pandemic taught us, and like, the shift in the comic industry as a whole right now, like, has taught us, is that like we really want to get back to those kids. And so like the theme this year was hone your focus. That was like in all of our meetings, it's like the thing we always like say is like, hone your focus, man. Like, this year, hone your focus. And when we sat down and we were like, what are the things that make a difference, that move a needle for SourcePoint? It was like Good Boy was one of those pillars. And so we said, okay, if we're going to do that, let's put effort and money and marketing and all the stuff into pushing Good Boy beyond the idea of a comic and what else we can do. I'm a big toy nut.
Oh yeah, me too.
I love toys, specifically Funko Pops. And one of the things we did first is we were like, okay, well, we have like we know people that know people at Funko. We'll reach out and we'll make a Funko Pop.
Awesome.
And we reached out. We were like, look, we know you got to order 30,000. We know you got to do this. We know you got to do that. Like, sure, let's do it. And we couldn't even get a call back.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, damn, like, that's fucked up. Like, I've spent like a large portion of my paycheck with Funko Pop.
Right.
And
guilty as charged.
And so I was like, that sucks. And I had never done anything. Like, I've never been at the point where I needed to like get with a factory overseas and design a thing and have it produced and like all that. And I did it on a very small scale for another project. I was like, I wonder if I could just make my own toy. And so I literally just went on Alibaba.com, made a bunch of stuff up, and was like, hey, I'm looking to make a toy, like whatever. And I got all these like, you get inundated with people like, we are very good factory from China. We make good toy for you. Like, and you're just like, how do you sort through all these people? And I just read reviews and things for, a month, just going through different factories. And I finally found somebody that was making stuff similar to kind of what I wanted to do. And I said, I've got this design. Kit had done this awesome cover of like a chibi flint. And I was like, I want to do it like this. I had a 3D mold made by Les Garner and Killian Blackheart. They made me like a 3D sculpt that was a chibi flint. And I sent it to this factory. I said, look, I want to make this, but I want to make it a 10-inch toy. I want it to be made of vinyl. I want it to come with a custom box and, a holder and all this stuff. And after months of back and forth, they finally were like, okay, like, we can do it. You got to pay for a mold, you got to pay for this, and we can do a test run. So it was like thousands of dollars just to even get a test.
Oh, wow.
And we were like, I was terrified. And we got the first one, and I was like, oh my God, I love it. Like, it's so good. Like, I picked it up like out of the box, and I was like, this is a thing I would buy at a store. Like, beyond the bias of like, it's my character. Like, I sent it to Christy, and I was like, look at this. And she was like, I love him so much. I was like, I know. And so we were like, okay, like, let's make this toy. Like, we got everything prepped. We did all this stuff. Like, the master molds were made and like did all these things. And we were like, well, the thing, like the crazy thing right now that's happening in comics, like we talked about experiences, people, we talked about crowdfunding, like the market is the direct market is dying.
Yeah.
Like it's hemorrhaging because like distributors are destroying comic shops. Like they're making it nearly impossible for shops to make any money to survive, which then puts pressure on shops to even give shelf space to indie books.
Sure.
Because of course, why would I expect you to take a chance on my book, my indie book that no one's ever heard of, when you can put Batman in the same spot and sell 10, 20, 30 copies?
Yeah.
I get it. But
Sure.
what's happening is phasing us all out. And so we were like, okay, we're going to switch all of our stuff to this idea that we're going to sell it directly to fans through Kickstarter. We're going to sell it directly to shops through Kickstarter by like offering retailer stuff and all that. And we're going to release this toy and we're going to make, 1,000 of them. And that's it. And of that 1,000, there's going to be 500 full color ones. And then there's going to be 350 that are art series that are all white. They're all matte white. And then there's only going to be 150 that are all matte black.
Wow.
And then people can take them. It's like a sketch cover toy. People can take them and get like their favorite artist to draw on them or design them or do whatever.
That's cool.
So yeah. So like this thing is the first kind of push into other, mediums that we're trying to like push Good Boy to, so we've got toys. So like this coming Thursday that launches. It's goodboytoy.com. If you go to it, there's like 230 people watching the campaign or something, which is like the highest I've ever had on a campaign. It's crazy. Excuse me. And then after the toy, like as soon as the toy fulfills, we go right into the video game. And the video game is already in development. I've played the test, like the first level of the test. It's amazing. I'm a huge fan of like side scroller.
Oh yeah, me too.
Metal Slug is one of my favorite video games of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, okay, well, I want to make Metal Slug, but Good Boy. And I sent it to the developers and they were like, okay. And they made Metal Slug, but Good Boy. So yeah, so that comes out, I think, in July or August, like end of July, early August.
Wow.
And it's going to be available like through Kickstarter first, which like it will be for PC. And then right after that, like the cool thing is like when you back it on Kickstarter, you're going to get the first version and then you get every version that comes after. So we're doing it for PC first, then we're going to port it to console next. So it's going to be on PlayStation and Xbox. Then we're going to go to mobile, so iOS and Android. And then we're going to be doing Switch. But Nintendo's kind of a real dick about like what they let on the eShop.
I've heard that.
You got to be you have to be a Nintendo approved game developer to even submit your game or even like trying to get approved to be on there. And luckily I didn't know it at the time, but the developers we got with, they were like, yeah, I mean, we can say that we're a Nintendo, approved developer. But like out of every 10 games we send them, like 2 get picked.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, all right. So yeah, it's going to be pretty sick.
That's awesome.
The game is awesome. It's so fun and so ridiculous. And it kind of follows the story of the first volume, the first game does. But it's just so rad. It's so much fun. I mean, I sat like, it's pretty fun when like your job is like, okay, well, today for 9 hours, I gotta play this Good Boy video game to like try to get all the bugs, find all the bugs. And people come in and they're like, hey, can I get your help? I'm like, I'm working, I can't help you.
That's
sorry. I if I could, I would. I really, boss is really riding me about this.
I really got to get back to this
game. Yeah.
That's incredible.
So those are the first 2, and we've got animation in the works. We're doing an animation test right now, for a pitch deck that we're making, and just, I mean, all kinds of stuff, and the big thing that kind of was dropped the other day is that we're expanding the Good Boy universe, with a book called Swag Jackers. That's the first in a long line of tie-in series that are all in the Good Boy universe. I used to like, I mean, I write a lot.
Sure.
I have I mean, like right now I have like 7 books I'm writing, but
Oh, wow.
somebody, my boss, you know, I don't know whether it was out of love or frustration or both, but he was like, you gotta stop making new books. He was like, start making new stories and put them in the books you already have. And I was like, all right. So I wrote new stories and I put them in good books. So Swagjackers, I tell people is Little Orphan Annie meets the boys.
Oh man.
It's pretty sick. So it's about these kids who steal superpowers and sell them on the black market to support this orphanage that raised them.
That's awesome.
And in this sort of like world of theirs, they all operate using this like what they call the holy text. Like it's modern, right? But like they sort of like as kids are like, behold the holy text. And it's like an urban dictionary from like 50 years ago, but it's like a print copy of the urban dictionary.
Oh wow.
And so they take like all their words, like the reason they call themselves swagjackers is like that's a term that they read in the book, like, and they call people's superpowers their swag. So that's like incredible. They're the swagjackers. Yeah, it's crazy. You know, Flint may or may not get some like, I don't want to say superpowers, but like he does start fucking around with some super drugs at the end of volume 5.
Oh man.
And so like that's how they're gonna kind of be brought into that world.
That's incredible.
It's pretty sick. Yeah.
I'm excited.
So yeah.
So is there anything that you haven't done with one of your major properties that you want to still do?
Oh my God.
Or even if we want to loop it in with Good Boy, is there anything with Good Boy that you want to do that you haven't already done? It sounds like you're already doing quite a bit.
I mean, I kind of just do whatever. I mean, I'm a real sucker. We did it for Warcorns, and you probably don't even know. We made a full audio performance of Warcorns. We brought in professional voice actors. We did a whole like audio drama where like it followed. You could scan the QR code and follow along in the book.
Oh wow!
As like, and I mean like real like Monica Rial and like J. Michael Tatum, like, you know, famous David Matranga. Like you can see back here, I've got a Warcorns poster, and it's like signed by the cast.
That's awesome.
But I love the art of voice acting. I, you know, have wanted to be a voice actor since I was like 6 years old. Before I even knew it was being a voice actor.
Yeah.
Like, you know, back when it was like, what do you want to do when you grow up? I want to be a cartoon.
Yeah.
Like, what are you, stupid? Like, you can't be a cartoon. You know, I didn't know that Jim Cummings was doing the voice of Darkwing Duck.
Yeah.
I just knew that I wanted to be Darkwing Duck.
Right? Who didn't want to be Darkwing Duck?
I wanted to do that. I wanted to make silly voices, like that kind of stuff. And so I love doing things like that. I love audio performance kind of stuff. And we did it with Warcorns, and I would love to do it with every book I make. It's so fun and so like, it's just like it allows you to like get into some like creative space that you don't get by writing.
Yeah.
And like, because it's like a real weird experience when you're like working with a voice actor who's like trying to voice a character and they're asking you questions you never even thought to ask yourself about the character.
Yeah.
Right. Like because they're trying to understand how to present this character, and like, so they want to know all these intricate details that you're like, fuck, I don't know.
You're like, it's all stuck in my head. I just need to find a way to get it out so I can hear inside my head.
Exactly. Yeah. So I love that. If I made $1 million, I would that's what I would do. I'd be like, I'm just going to make audio performances of all these things.
That would be amazing. I can already see right now the Franklin and Ghost audio, like podcast, audio drama.
Oh,
that'd be incredible.
You know, you might have something here.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever, I mean, I love when people do like podcasts that are like, you know, murder mysteries and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know that anybody's ever done a podcast as fictional characters. Like as comic characters.
I would say as fictional characters, probably, but not necessarily as comic characters.
Yeah. Like, and that would be kind of a fun, that would be, I mean, we're experimenting with
was this kind of on Cleaver County, which is a whole horror universe that we're doing at Source Point. And we're doing we bought a web-based radio station. And we just started like using like royalty music to like, you're gonna be able to like listen to Cleaver County radio, like
that's
just
awesome.
on the web.
Yeah.
But then like we're gonna create a fictional DJ who's gonna be like, we're gonna record audio of like, 90 points, 98.7 The Curse, like and you're gonna be able to hear these things. We're gonna be able to like drop clues about releases and about things happening in the book and like fun stuff in that. And I love the idea of getting to like do weird experiential stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Like that's the weird stuff that I'm like, no one's like making a comic book radio station, like, and like building like a real experience in the universe they're creating where like you can, we're going to do something like one of the don't tell anybody, I know this is people are going to see this, but don't tell anybody. But like we're going to do there's a fun thing we're going to do, I think maybe at New York Comic Con, where we're designing a fake Cleaver County newspaper, and we're printing like thousands of copies of this fake newspaper, and we're going to hire actors to be paper boys, extra, like read about this and like this and this, and like passing out those newspapers to people at New York Comic Con.
That's awesome.
And like people are going to read it, and it's like full articles of like all the stuff, and there's gonna be like little clues hidden in the newspaper, like you fill out the crossword and one of the things tells you like how you can get a free thing or like whatever, like stuff like that. That's the weird stuff I want to do.
That's
like
fun.
That's the weird, like that I'm like, maybe 10 people will like take the time to fill this out, but I don't even care, because how cool will it be to have our own newspaper?
That would be awesome. I listened to a podcast called Welcome to Night Vale that is basically a fictional. So I don't listen to it. I'm familiar with it, but Josh Warner, our editor-in-chief, who works, he created Cleaver County with me. Yeah, he's really into it. It's really so good,
and that's where like that's his kind of inspiration when he thinks of like things we should do. He's like, oh shit, Night Vale. Like that's
because it basically the premise is it's a town where all like strange and supernatural things are real. Yeah, and basically the narrator is a guy at a local radio station. Yeah, and each episode is a broadcast of the radio station. Yeah, or it's a radio broadcast. Yeah, so it's all in a fictional town, but I've never heard it. I've not really heard of anyone doing it inside their own fictional comic world. So that's very cool that he did that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty rad. We've got a lot of that whole universe is going to be really fun, because we're just like really trying to take some weird chances with it that we're not on other stuff.
Which that kind of goes right back into what you were saying earlier, is take a chance on the weird stuff and make stuff that you want to see, not necessarily stuff that you're trying to get somewhere with. Yep.
Exactly.
Like I just listened to a podcast today, one that we put out. It was an interview with Joe Latrulio from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He's like, the question was, how do you make a movie to get into a festival? He said, you don't make the movie to get into the festival. You make the movie that you want to make. And then if it gets to the festival, great. And if it doesn't, that's fine, because you still made something you wanted to make. Yeah. And that's kind of the same advice you're giving. I think that's great advice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think we pretty much wrapped up everything. Is there any like new stuff that's coming that you want to talk about, or that you can talk about?
The toy, the video game. If you follow our stuff on social media, if you follow Good Boy on Instagram, good_boy_comic on Instagram, or if you follow any of my stuff, Some Writer Guy, we got a lot of stuff coming. Cleaver County, Good Boy tie-ins, Bad Girl, Swag Jackers, all kinds of it's a lot.
That's very cool.
But we're here to just make people laugh,
make cool shit
with our friends, man.
That's all. That's it. That's the meaning of life. Make cool shit with your friends.
Yep. Exactly.
Well, so final thought, is there anything you would give advice for people who want to get creative or maybe someone that has an idea for something they wanted to do and they just for whatever reason haven't done it, and just what's something you would say to inspire people to go after something they want to do?
Stop being an idiot. Just take that shit. Like, there's no, like, life is too short for you to not go after the shit you want. Like, so many people, like this is going to sound really depressing, but like and this is not a dig, well, it's kind of a dig at my dad, but I had a conversation with my wife a couple months ago where I was like, my dad, since I was like 10, my dad has been like, oh, I really, really want, it was like a BMW. It's like some cheap ass fucking BMW convertible. Like, it's like that two-seater, like one like that, like everybody in the early 2000s had. Like, I forget what it's called. But like every year he'd be like, someday. And I'm like, this is like a $40,000 car. Like, it's not like a crazy thing. And like, my dad worked like his hands to the bone for decades and was like, I just can't. It's not responsible. It's not this. I can't do that. I'm like, dude, it's the only thing you want. Like, that's all you should be trying to get. Like, who cares? Sometimes doing the responsible thing isn't doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to do what makes you happy, whether it's responsible or not. Unless you're hurting other people. Then, like, if you're like, it really makes me happy to kill people, maybe don't do that. But as long as it's not hurting anybody else, just, take a chance, man. Take a chance on yourself too. That's the big thing. That's like, you shouldn't expect anybody to bet on you if you won't bet on you.
Yeah. You have to be able to bet on yourself before other people will bet on you.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it's like the chance you took where you sent stuff out and you're like, oh, hey, here you go, read my thing. And then, executive calls you later, say, hey, let's talk about stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, if you wouldn't have taken that chance, that never would have happened.
Yeah.
So that's
just find the people that you want to make cool stuff with and make cool stuff with them. That's it.
That's great advice.
That's it.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, you want to take a minute to plug all your stuff?
Go to goodboytoy.com to follow the Good Boy Vinyl Toy Kickstarter that's coming up this Thursday, May 25th. Also follow me at Some Writer Guy on all social media or at SourcePoint Press to find out more info about our books, mine and others. And also follow all my fun creative friends, Christina Blanche, Dave Lance, Kit Wallace, Ruben Moko, everybody, all of them. Follow all the people, Malia Ewert. Just read comics.
Read comics,
whether they're mine or other people's.
Just read comics, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. And for my side, when we get this posted, you can view it all on geek-network.com. On all the socials, it's GeeksAZ on Twitter and Instagram, Geek Network on Facebook, and I personally am CD is Weird on Instagram. And then the music we're going to use for the show at the beginning and the end is by a band called Polygon Horizon. The song is Pizza Force. It's an incredible song. Everybody should check it out. Check out their stuff on Bandcamp. Check it out on Bandcamp. It's an incredible song. It's Nintendo Core, I believe, or it's
that's
just like a
thing?
lot of. Yeah, man, it's awesome. It's like video game rock music. It's incredible.
What?
Check it out. You're not going to be disappointed. It's good stuff. And I think I don't know if it's a whole band or if it's just one guy, but he's an incredibly nice guy, and he gave us permission to use his song for the podcast. So thank you very much, Chris. You're a great guy, and his name is Chris too. I'm not just
really
thanking
you.
myself because
that
that would be weird.
You're like, I really want to thank Chris for allowing us to use this music.
Thank you to myself.
Yeah.
All right, and so I guess we'll wrap things up. Garrett, thank you for taking time out of your weekend to talk to me.
Thank you for having me.
And remember, kids, to embrace the things that fuel your weird and always geek responsibly.